Good afternoon, everyone. We live in an age where people follow anything. I didn't know, and I'm showing my age here, what an influencer was. And I was shocked to find out that people pay someone to say, you must have this. And because I have it, you've got to have it. And people will go, oh, Manship says you've got to have that. I'm going to buy it. But that's an influencer, not a very good one as far as Gary's concerned. And I'm thinking, is this real? And there are people on the internet that are making millions because other people are just saying, I'm following them. And they're not even famous. So that got me thinking in terms of who do I follow and who influences me. And I've actually changed my preaching technique in terms of if a work colleague or a neighbour said, you go to church, you're a Christian, why? Why do you follow Jesus? And my answer now, when asked, is very straightforward. I'm in John chapter 3, words we know well, something Nicodemus says. Now, there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a member of the Jewish ruling council. He came to Jesus at night and said, Rabbi, we know you are a teacher who comes from God, for no one can perform the miraculous signs, miracles you are doing if God was not with him. And there's the thing I want us to think about this afternoon. The miracles Jesus does are a sign to show who he is. And we're going to look at a series of miracles in the Gospels. We're going to use the Luke account because they're all back to back. I'm going to draw lessons out and look at why I follow Jesus for those reasons, and also what might be helpful in terms of exhortation for us, and also if someone says to you, why do you follow Jesus? We can have a nice answer. So we'll have our first reading.
Luke 8, verses 22 to 26. Now it happened on a certain day that he, Jesus, got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, let us cross over to the other side of the lake. And they launched out. But as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we are perishing. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. But he said to them, where is your faith? And they were afraid and marveled, saying one to another, who can this be? For he commands even the winds and water, and they obey him. Then they sailed to the country of the Gadarenes, which is opposite Galilee.
We know a man that can control the elements. And what's one of the big issues of society? Global warming. The crisis in terms of the oceans, the weather. And we've just read of a man, by the words of his mouth, can control the elements. How relevant is that today? And that wasn't the main reason Jesus did this miracle. But it is really powerful for society today that we have an answer to the global warming crisis. We know a man that can just, by the words of his mouth, solve the problem. But for you and I, there's a powerful lesson here in terms of knowing and feeling. If you'd asked the 12, do you know Jesus? They would have said, yes. He's there asleep. He's there asleep. We know him well. We're his followers. Most of them were used to the water. They were used to sailing. So they were in their comfort zone. And then things changed. The storm came. Knowing Jesus wasn't enough. All they could feel was the cold, the wet, the rain, the fear of death. And it's Mark that says these words, don't you care that we're going to die? They were saying to the most caring individual, don't you care? And are we like that at times in our lives? When the storms come? Yes, we might know God exists. We might know Jesus exists. But do we say the same thing? Don't you care, Lord? Why me? Why now? What they are experiencing may be the exact emotions you're experiencing. Don't you care, Lord? So this miracle isn't just important in the context of global warming. It's also in the context of our lives. In terms of we may be in a time of crisis. But we're in a time of crisis with someone who's in the ship with us. And here's the irony. That boat was the safest boat ever to go on water. Not because of the designer, but who the passenger was. And they forgot that. And it's a massive lesson for you and I, brothers and sisters, between knowing something and feeling something. And we might know loads of things. We might be feeling despair because we forget he's in the boat with us. So that's the first miracle.
Luke 8:26 to 39. They sailed to the country of the Gadarenes, which is opposite Galilee. And when he, Jesus, stepped out on the land, there met him a certain man from the city who had demons for a long time. And he wore no clothes, nor did he live in a house, but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him. With a loud voice said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For it had often seized him, and he was kept under guard, bound with chains and shackles. And he broke the bonds and was driven by the demon into the wilderness. Jesus asked him, saying, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," because many demons had entered into him. And they begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss. Now a herd of many swine was feeding there on the mountain, so they begged him that he would permit them to enter them, and he permitted them. Then the demons went out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd ran violently down the steep place into the lake and drowned. When those who fed them saw what had happened, they fled and told in the city and in the country. Then they went out to see what had happened, and came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had departed, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. They also who had seen it told them by what means he who had been demon-possessed was healed. Then the whole multitude of the surrounding region of the Gadarenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. And he got into the boat and returned. Now the man from whom the demons had departed begged him that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your own house and tell what great things God has done to you." And he went his way and proclaimed throughout the whole city what great things Jesus had done for him.
Mental well-being is massive today. We are more aware of mental health now than we've ever been. And it is said that the biggest group in danger health-wise mentally are males. And here we have a single male with mental illness. All the miracles in the Gospels impress me, but the ones of the healing in the mind impress me the most. I'll tell you why. Because it's only now we're comprehending a problem of mental well-being. Jesus was dealing with the problem before we actually knew there was a problem. That's how forward thinking, that's how powerful he is. So we know a man that can control the elements, global warming. We know a man that can help mental well-being. It isn't just mental well-being being dealt with here, is it? We have mental well-being in its proper context. Here is a man who is ill. And what does Jesus say and do? I know at verse 35. And the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they found the man for whom the demons had gone, sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed in his right mind. Right-mindedness isn't just about being mentally stable. Right-mindedness is comprehending who the Lord Jesus Christ is. And as far as the world is concerned, we are mad for that. I find that really ironic. That mental well-being in its fullest context is being at the feet of Jesus, listening to him. And the world says, you must be mad to do that. That was the reaction of the Galileans. Go away, please. Yes, you might have helped him, but we don't want to be anything to do with you. I can remember, got to be in my early 20s, on a campaign, and I was asked to hold a lollipop up. I was in a line, and it was the Bible exhibition something, and I was the. So I'm at the front, and I got this sign, and we're walking around this village, and I'm leading the line. This little child runs across in front of me, looks up. Before I had chance to say hello, this woman, her mother, grabs her by the hand and goes, they're simple. Don't talk to them. Who is in the right mind? And that's what we thought of. So every time I look at this miracle, I marvel that Jesus is dealing with an issue before society realized there was an issue, mental well-being. He's also showing us mental health is about being with him. And did we notice, one final comment, I'll stop on this bit, at the start of this incident, he was out without clothes. I do not believe that he had his set of clothes nice and tidy in the corner, ready to be used. And we read he was clothed in his right mind. Where did he get the clothes from? Jesus himself. The Lord's care wasn't just healing the mind. You haven't got a coat, have mine. Part of the Sermon on the Mount being lived out. Just by the waypoint. And I finished.
Verses 43 to 48. Now a woman having a flow of blood for 12 years, who had spent all her livelihood on physicians and could not be healed by any, came from behind and touched the border of his garment. And immediately her flow of blood stopped. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, Peter and those with him said, "Master, the multitudes throng and press you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus said, "Somebody touched me, for I perceived power going out from me." Now when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared to him in the presence of all the people the reason she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And he said to her, "Daughter, be of good cheer. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace."
You're not going to like this next bit, St. John. We know a man that can control the elements. We know a man that can heal the mind. How many of us in this room moan about the health service and the waiting lists? This woman waited 12 years for healing. One of the big issues of today is the health service. You say you wouldn't like it, St. John? No, I'm just saying, I'm not going, but I'm just saying. And how ironic. The three issues, which are the biggest for most people: global warming, mental well-being, health service, are all back to back here. And we know a man that can deal with it. I wonder how many of us noticed, and it seems to be only in this miracle and a couple of times in Luke, that when Jesus perceived power had gone from him, when that woman touched him, Jesus knew something was happening. I just want us to think about that. Not in terms of who touched me, but power went from him. Because here we are thinking about the miracles Jesus can do. And we're looking at just these miracles here in Luke. But the Gospels are full of miracles upon miracles. And we read, and he healed the crowd. Or he healed the crowd all night. No name, no numbers, just he healed. And one of the things I am in awe of, that every single miracle he performed cost him something. They took something from him. It wasn't just a simple, "You're healed, cheerio, done." Didn't cost me anything, emotionally or physically, but it cost him. Wonder if we really appreciate that. I mentioned the chosen this morning. I'm going to mention it again now. They had a scene there. The disciples were having food, and they were just generally talking. And then someone says, "Look at Jesus. He's exhausted. What's happening there?" Oh, he was healing people. And he just had the back of this person who looked totally exhausted. And I thought, yeah, that's probably more right that it's wrong in terms of the cost for him to do what he did. And it's only here with this incident with a woman who touches the hem of his garment, and one or two times that we're told, and power went from him. All the other times he just did, and there was a reaction. I just want to pick up on what it cost him for us just to mull over. So we know a man that can control the elements, heal the mind, heal the sick. We'll have our last reading.
Luke 8 again. 40 to 42 initially. So it was, when Jesus returned, that the multitude welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And behold, there came a man named Jarius, and he was a ruler of the synagogue. And he fell down at Jesus' feet and begged him to come to his house. For he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. But as he went, the multitudes thronged him. Now down to 49. While he was yet still speaking, someone came from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher." But when Jesus heard it, he answered him, saying, "Do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be made well." When he came into the house, he permitted no one to go in except Peter, James, and John, and the father and the mother of the girl. Now all wept and mourned for her, but he said, "Do not weep. She is not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him, knowing that she was dead. But he put them all outside, took her by the hand, and called, saying, "Little girl, arise." Then her spirit returned, and she arose immediately. And he commanded that she be given something to eat. And the parents were astonished, but he charged them to tell no man what had happened.
Got to ask, do you get the adverts, pure cremation and the like, up this neck of the woods? Other funeral things are available, but every time I see these adverts, it just reminds me that I'm going to die. And here we are. Would we be in the room? Would we have been here this morning if Jesus couldn't do this last miracle? Impressive though the others are, controlling the elements, healing the mind, healing the sick. If he couldn't raise the dead, would we be here? I can only speak for myself. No, I wouldn't. Because all the others, however impressive, have no real relevance for me. But resurrection has relevance for all of us. I don't think it's by accident. This is the last miracle Jesus is showing us. He can raise the dead. Wow. You and me are involved in that. And here's the strange thing. I would not want to be in Jarius's shoes. He knows his daughter is on the point of death. He has to do something. Whatever his understanding was of Jesus, he'd heard that he can heal. And I wonder how he felt when he was trying to get Jesus to the house and this woman turned up and was delaying him and the issue that was coming on. And as that woman was being healed, he heard the words no parent want to hear. Your child is dead. No parent wants to hear those words. And I wonder how he felt. And Jesus says, she sleeps. And they go there to where the body is. And when he tells them she's asleep, what's the reaction? They laughed at him. Then me and Gary, good mates, we have a good laugh. Would you be laughing if I was taking the mickey out of you? I'm not talking about a joke, I'm talking about taking the mickey out of you. Would you laugh? Because that's the worst thing someone can do, is belittle someone I can remember listening to a comedian saying the greatest joy a human being can experience is joy of laughter. A room when everybody's laughing. And in the next breath, he said the worst experience is to be laughed at, to be the point of ridicule. And Jesus was. And he didn't walk out. He didn't say, "Oh, is that what you think then? Cheerio. I know a good undertaker." He healed. He rose her from the dead. We have a friend that can control the elements, heal the mind, heal the sick, and raise us from the dead. Do we tell people about him? Or do we keep him to ourselves? I mentioned that I've changed my approach to conversation. I used to, when somebody asked, "Oh, you're a Christian, you follow Jesus, why?" And I would say, "Oh, his teaching is," and I would mention the Good Samaritan as revolutionary teaching. And the answer would be, "Oh, yes, that's all right, yeah, but so-and-so and so-and-so says this, so-and-so and so-and-so says that." And at best, Jesus' teaching is on a level field with someone else's. Now, I watched last week, I got Netflix, it's a pay-per-view channel, and they've had a series documentary about the life of Moses. And basically, it was a drama presentation, but people then commented. They had a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim. And at the very beginning, it said the opinion of Moses wasn't agreed. So the Christian, the Muslim, and the Jew all looked at Moses differently. And what I thought was fascinating, a Jew doesn't acknowledge Jesus, but acknowledges Moses. A Muslim acknowledges Jesus, but only as a prophet. Moses is higher up the hierarchy than Jesus from those two perspectives. From ours as disciples, that's not the right case. So when it comes to us telling people about this man, at best, he's level with other people, at best, not superior. But when it comes to the miracles, don't know anyone else who can say, this person does this person does that, this person does the other, in terms of miracles, to the same degree as the Lord Jesus Christ in the Gospels. So it's my starting point of why. There's no argument then of, well, so-and-so can do this, or so-and-so says that. He stands supreme, as we had at the beginning when we had Nicodemus say, "No one can do what you do unless God's with you." That is a true statement, true today as it was when Nicodemus said it. And I find that a far more positive talk in terms of chatting to people than saying, well, his teaching is this, or his compassion is that. Though important, he will then say, oh, so-and-so is exactly the same. But when it comes to the miracles, and the reason I chose the miracles here in Luke, bang, 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 bang. So you don't need to say to someone, you need to go about 7 or 8 things in the Bible. You go to Luke chapter 8. Can you tell me someone who can do those things? Put a name to the frame. And of course we can't. So that's why I follow Jesus, because who he is and what he is. But equally for you and I, brothers and sisters, I suggest it's a positive way of introducing this man to those around us.